Let's face it, we all have areas in our life where willpower alone just doesn't cut it. Maybe you're super disciplined when it comes to work or finances, but completely falter when it comes to fitness, relationships, or healthy eating. In today's episode, we're diving into why willpower isn't always the answer. And more importantly, what tools and strategies you can put into place to succeed where you've struggled before. Welcome to this week's episode of TUF Coffee Shop Talk. I am your host, Rhonda Lavoie. Each week, I meet with members from TUF Collaborative to chat about varying topics. And each week, you can join me here as I review the topics of the week. We have a wide range of topics, discussing anything from business building techniques to personal development ideas. And the best part is, I feel the topics can touch anybody, no matter what your adventure is in life. If you're self-employed, entrepreneur, working in a corporation, stay-at-home parent, retired, or even in between jobs, I think there's just a little bit for everyone. So I'd like to dive right in. Let's get to this week's conversation of the week. Many people believe that self-discipline is about grit and willpower, but relying on willpower is a flawed strategy because willpower is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day, leaving you vulnerable to poor choices when you're stressed, tired, or distracted. I'm sure you can all relate. I know that for me, my judgment in the evening is a lot less than in the morning. You know, I'll make poor choices of what I put in my body after 7 o'clock at night. There is no doubt. The closer I get to bedtime, the more I want that bag of chips. It's just a guarantee. So relying on my willpower alone is not really going to be a successful strategy. So in today's podcast, I want to talk about just some of the tools we can use to help set us up for success. You know, what are the different ways that we can, when willpower isn't enough, how can we succeed? The first one I want to talk about is just leveraging your environment. One of the most powerful ways to build discipline without the willpower is just to modify your environment to encourage that behavior you want and discourage the ones that you don't. So for instance, for me, the bag of chips in the evening, the easiest way to modify my environment is to not have the chips in the house in the first place. That is a bit of a challenge because I'll also go to the grocery store hungry, then buy the chips because I know that I'll want them later. So I could also set that up for success by not going to the grocery store hungry. But there's other temptations too. Like for instance, maybe you want to read more. So you could place books in a visible place, but also placing your phone in another room. So set yourself up for success that, I know I'm going to spend the majority of my time in, say, the living room. That's where I'm going to put all the books, but my phone must stay in the kitchen. So just remove that temptation. Or maybe you need to create a little bit of friction when it comes to your bad habits. So for me, the friction would be not having the chips in the house, but you could also say you want to watch less TV, or you want to stop binge watching TV. A simple solution for this is when you're done watching TV, log out of the streaming account. So when you go to watch TV, it's harder to do it because you have to log back in. Just creating that little bit of a friction there will help you with that. Or you can also create some visual cues to create, the good habits, putting things in plain sight. So like the books in the room, or say you want to exercise more, leaving your workout clothes out the night before will help you remember, oh yes, in the morning. So when you get up, it's like, oh yes, I wanted to exercise today because I left my clothes out. So creating that cue of, oh yes, that is what I wanted to do. So now I, created that in motion. You don't need willpower when the right choice becomes the easiest one. So consider the thing that it is that you struggle to have willpower with and come up with some solutions, not even just one, multiple is even better. Some solutions to, set you up for success. So for me, the potato chips is don't have them in the house. So that was about setting up your environment so that you have some successes. But what about creating systems to reduce that decision fatigue and, making discipline automatic? Removing the need for willpower. That sounds amazing, right? It's actually pretty easy. Say you want to save money. That's the thing that you're having trouble doing. Well, it could be as simple as just creating an automatic transfer from your checking account to your saving account every payday. You want to save $50 a check, just have it automatically transfer there. And then on your account, make sure that it's hard for you to remove money from your savings. So say you aren't allowed to transfer from your savings to your checkings, you have to go to the branch to request it. Create resistance against it, but automate getting it there. Or maybe you should use time blocking. So, maybe you want to work out every 3 days or every other day or whatever it is. Set a daily alarm that will remind you to do that, and block that part of your day out so that you don't schedule other things in there. Set that time each day, creating that as a new habit. I use time blocking a lot because there's lots of things that I want to achieve, especially in my business. So I will set aside specific times of day or specific days to do different things. So for instance, I have a morning routine that I do every day. I do some journaling and reading, my affirmations, all of those things. I do them every day, and I've created that as a habit, which wasn't easy. In the beginning, it was challenging because I had to get up a little bit early so that I could make all of this happen. But I scheduled it into my day as that's when it was going to happen. And by doing it over and over and over again, it created a habit. So I don't need willpower to do it anymore. It's not a chore to do it. It's just something that I do as a part of my day. Same goes for some of the other tasks that I have. I have definitely things that within my business, especially, that I want to achieve. So by assigning a specific date and time to do that, or time of day to do that, I'll be much more likely to succeed at doing it. So time blocking is certainly something that'll help you create those new habits and have ultimately removing willpower from the equation, because it just becomes a part of your routine. There's also the kind of like a default discipline, or making healthy choices the default, as an example. So today we have some amazing tools to do that. So example like HelloFresh, you can get meals delivered right to your house so that you have the groceries available to create delicious meals and remove the challenge of coming up with a healthy option for your meals for you and your family. We actually have done HelloFresh. We loved it a lot. It created actually multiple benefits for us. Not only were we eating meals that were healthy, but we were preparing and eating them together. So we love that as an option. Now, obviously, there's an expense to that. It does cost money to do it, but it was kind of a really cool way to do it. And by default, it was easy. We didn't need the willpower to make the meal and have the time together, because it just literally arrived on our doorstep. Having systems in place prevent the need for willpower by removing the decision-making process. So this next one's a little bit deeper. It's using identity-based discipline. I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits, James Clear. In the book, he talks about the power of identity-based habits and how this technique can shift your self-image, making discipline actions part of who you are rather than something you're forcing yourself to do. For example, to adopt identity-based discipline, you'll shift your self-talk. So instead of saying, I need to work out, say, I am the type of person who never skips workouts. You see the difference there? By telling yourself that you're the type of person who never skips workouts, it's a lot different than saying, I need to work out. It's like a positive and a negative, just in the way that it's said. To align your habits with your identity, if you want to write daily, you'll identify as a writer, not just someone who wants to write. So you need to, Your self-talk needs to change in that regard and say that you are a writer, not someone who wants to write. And then you need to identify act to this new identity. So with each action, you're reinforcing your self-talk. Make it easier to stay disciplined. So if you identify as a healthy person, you automatically make healthier choices without relying on willpower. Again, act according to your new identity. So I am the type of person who never skips workouts. So never skip a workout. I identify as a writer. So write, be a writer, do the things writers do. Or I identify as a healthy person. So you will make healthy choices because I am a healthy person. Instead of saying I need to work out. It's hard to identify with someone who needs to work out. I suspect that if you say, I want to identify with somebody who needs to work out, you're going to think, I identify as somebody who sits on the couch and does nothing because they think they need to work out. They don't identify as the type of person who never skips a workout, or as a writer, or as a healthy person. I've read the Atomic Habits book. It was very good. It'll definitely be something that I read again because every time you read a book, you get a little bit more out of it. But this is great stuff. Identity-based discipline. When your behaviors reflect your identity, discipline becomes second nature. I'll read that again. When your behaviors reflect your identity, discipline becomes second nature. Another way to be able to help battle willpower is with microhabits. Often we will fail when it comes to discipline because we start too big. We set too big of goals, or we rely on big bursts of willpower that fade quickly. Instead, we need to start with kind of micro habits and scale them gradually. So how do we implement these micro habits? Well, we begin small, manageable tasks that build kind of momentum over time. Instead of committing to an hour-long gym session, just start with 5 minutes of exercise. And you don't even have to go to the gym to do it. Just say every day or every other day, I'm going to do, 5 minutes of walking, or I'm going to do 5 minutes of jumping jacks and sit-ups and, walking around the living room. It can be very straightforward. And then increase slowly. Gradually increase the intensity or the duration. Add 2 or 3 minutes to it. So maybe you want to meditate. And meditation is something that takes time to learn and some discipline to do. But if you start off small, it's like, I'm going to meditate for 3 minutes and then add 2 or 3 minutes the following week. Very incremental, small, slow growth will be an easier way to create a new habit. And then as you're gradually adding them, it will build and build. And then you can also stack habits together, attach 2 habits together. So after I brush my teeth, I'm going to do 5 push-ups. Or as I drink my morning coffee, I'm going to read, a chapter out of my book. Tiny, consistent actions lead to lasting discipline without the need for willpower. It's actually quite easy, but you do need to do the tiny habits. But a tiny habit is much easier than a giant step. And you'll have the longevity to do those things. And this leads me into the next piece of it, which is the reward and accountability, which are actually 2 parts. I'll talk about accountability first. Sometimes having some sort of commitment contract or an accountability partner can reduce the reliance on willpower because it kind of creates a risk for you, cost of failure, if you will, to follow through. So if you have created this contract, so say you have it with your accountability partner or someone who's going to work with you to help you stay on track, and you create a contract with them that say, I commit to do X, Y, and Z, and I need you to help me stay accountable. Simply having that conversation and saying that you're going to commit to something triggers something within you. and it'll help you stay focused and want to be able to follow through. But having them know that you have also committed to that, it's just one more thing on top of that. So it's two pieces. One, saying it out loud, you're committing to yourself ultimately. And then two, having that contract with them, they are now committed to having you succeed. And you know that they're counting on you to succeed. But you can even add on it. You could have some sort of financial consequence if you don't succeed. And there's actually apps and tools out there that will penalize you if you do not. But it can be as simple as, say, you want to become a writer and you want to write 500 words daily. If you've created this commitment with your accountability partner and you do not do the 500 words, that day, then you need to give $5 to your accountability partner's favorite charity. And the difference is it needs to be their charity, not your charity, because if it was your charity, it makes you feel good that, I've given money to a charity, so it's okay that I didn't do this. But if it's to their charity, and especially if that charity is something that does not align with you, if it doesn't feel as good to have to give that money away. Or perhaps it could be a different consequence. Maybe it's withdrawal from something or having to do something that you don't like to do, even more than writing 500 words daily. Like maybe you hate push-ups, and if you don't do it, now you have to do 15 push-ups because you didn't do the 500 words daily. But having that accountability partner, saying it out loud, and having a consequence all creates some accountability. But there's also another way to do it. And you can do a combination of both, but there's the reward. So if you do the 500 words daily and say that you get to have done it consistently for a week, now maybe you get a special treat, or you get a special date with someone, or you get to announce it publicly that you did it and that you've consistently done it. So for me, as an example, I've set a goal for myself that I will reach my step goal every day. And my goal was to get to a week. And I actually, on my my watch app, it automatically rewards me. And it has like winning streak awards, and it's like a badge. And I reached my 1 week streak badge. And I reached my 2-week streak badge. And now I'm working on my 3rd week. So I've hit my step count every day for 2 and a little bit weeks. It's going to be 3 weeks on Saturday, I think it is. So, once I hit that 4th week, maybe there'll be some sort of reward I'll have for myself. Like maybe I'll treat myself and go do my steps somewhere I wouldn't normally do them. Or maybe I'll go with somebody to do my steps. Whatever it is, just creating some sort of reward. Just be careful that your reward doesn't contradict your goal. So, my goal of getting my steps in is twofold. It's, about becoming healthier. So my reward probably shouldn't be Dairy Queen ice cream. It probably should be something that isn't going to set me back in what I'm trying to accomplish. Does that make sense? All right, the last area that I want to talk about is how to reduce the decision fatigue. This is often why our willpower depletes, is because we just are so tired of making decisions throughout the day that we just do not have the mental energy to make good decisions and to stay disciplined. The best way to do this is to create some standardized routines or set things in motion before you get to the fatigue. So you could have, as an example, you could pre-plan meals or pre-plan your outfit in the morning. So by not having to make the decision about the meal or the outfit, you're reducing the fatigue on your brain so that you can keep up with the willpower later in the day. Or create routines that will allow you to just go through the motions, if you will, to get those things done so that you don't have to be making decisions about all of the things. So, your routine is you get up, you make the coffee, you have the coffee, you do the reading, you do the journaling, etc., 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 so that you don't have to think about what am I doing next? What am I doing next? Oh, I need to go do this. Oh, I need to go do that. Create those routines so that you have space for willpower later. Fewer decisions just means more mental energy for discipline. All right, so the key takeaways on how to ensure that you have the willpower that you need when you need it are these. There was 6 of them. 1 was design your environment, remove the temptations, create the visual cues for the good habits. 2 was use systems and automation. So, automate the decisions and use pre-committed devices. So the automatic delivery of HelloFresh as an example. 3, leverage identity-based habits. So this came out of the Atomic Habits books by James Clear. Align your habits with your self-image. 4, start with micro habits. Start small, easy wins, and then add to it and create some momentum. 5, use commitment devices to add that external accountability, so like an accountability partner. 6, reduce decision fatigue. Simply creating the routine in place so that you don't have to be making decisions all the time and allowing you to have that space. True discipline isn't about forcing yourself through sheer willpower. It's about creating systems that remove the need for it. By automating good behaviors, modifying your environment, and embedding habits into your identity, you can build lasting discipline effortlessly. All of these are actually quite simple things and things that I believe all of you can do if you wanted to set yourselves up for some success. Sometimes you have to revisit these things because I suspect that a lot of these you've heard before. They're not new. They're not, life-changing. I'm not going to write a book about it. Let's just put it that way. But sometimes just listening to somebody else say that and being reminded of them, makes it easier for you to have the willpower to make the right decision in the future. So now, having had this conversation with you, at least for the next little while, I suspect I will not buy groceries while hungry, and I will try and not have chips in the house so that I'm not tempted to eat them in the evening. Well, that concludes our episode this week. Thanks so much for being here. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you get a minute, I'd love it if you went and pressed that 5th star on the rating and gave me a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. And if you haven't already, please subscribe or hit that follow button, as I'd love it if you came back week to week. If you're looking for more information on the membership, check out tufinstitute.com. That's tufinstitute.com. And if you want more about me and my real estate business, you can check out rhondalavoie.hprealty.com. Looking for me on socials, I'm on Instagram at Rhonda Lavoie _TUF and on Facebook just as my name, Rhonda Lavoie. Reach out anytime. I'd love to hear from you. I really do hope you have a marvelous day, and I can't wait to bring you another episode again next week.